Hello, my name is Rishi from Balloon One. Today we'll be looking at fixed assets within SAP Business One. This is the third of 4 videos in our fixed asset series, and today we will be looking at the tools to manage fixed assets within SAP Business One. Just a reminder, for this series we will be looking at fixed assets as of SAP Business One version 9.0 and above, where fixed assets are now inbuilt into the financial module, where previously they were an additional add-on. For this demonstration, I will be using SAP Business One version 9.1 patch level 10 with the demo GB database. We will first start with a brief recap of the series and then look into asset master data, capitalization, depreciation, and retirement. Just a reminder, it is advised to make decisions about legal and industry requirements with a client's accountant. To start using fixed assets, we must first activate the solution, and this is a non-reversible setting. We then need to configure the account determination, define the asset master data records, and the relevant definitions for those asset master datas, and finally document numbering. Asset master data lets us manage and define all fixed asset item types in SAP Business One. When you attach an asset class to the asset master data, it will bring in the default setup for that asset class into the asset master data. Let's have a look in SAP Business One. We can go to Financials, Fixed Assets, and Asset Master Data. If I try and add an asset, and before I add any more information, if I select an asset class, I can see already over here we have brought in depreciation parameters and attributes. These have come from the asset class setup as per the second video of this series. If I now add an asset, if I am to add a truck vehicle, I've already given it an asset class. I can assign it to an asset group. If I am now to add the assets, the subtabs in the fixed asset tab of the asset master data will show information about the asset. Overview gives a snapshot of the asset as of this moment. Values can be used to monitor the changes of the asset's value over the year. The depreciation subtab provides a view of the asset's planned and posted depreciation at different points of the year. Next, the cost accounting subtab can be used to assign projects and distribution rules to an asset to facilitate cost accounting. And finally, we have additional information which can be stored in these attributes. These have been brought in because the asset class assigned to this asset includes the attribute group with these attributes in them. These are the defaults, and I can easily overwrite them. Over here, we can see that the purchase item is selected. This will allow us to purchase the asset and raise an AP invoice. We can also select sales item, which will allow us to sell the asset. Next, let's look at capitalization. Capitalization is the process of recording an acquisition and production cost as a fixed asset instead of an expense. So the asset is written off as depreciation over several accounting periods instead of being charged against earnings in one accounting period. When you acquire an asset, SAP Business One automatically capitalizes it. This can either be done via the capitalization document or the AP invoice. An AP invoice automatically generates a capitalization document when the invoice contains a fixed asset item type. Capitalizing an asset effectively brings it into SAP Business One. Let's have a look in Business One. If I go back to Financials, Fixed Assets, and Capitalization, I can select my truck item. I can give it a total price, let's say £30,000, quantity 1. If we now look at the asset master data for our truck, and we can see we have one truck and it has been bought in at £30,000. We will now bring in the truck through a purchase invoice. If we go to purchasing, AP invoice, we select our supplier and our asset. I will bring one in at £20,000. Yep. Add a posting date. Here's my AP invoice. And if I go back to financials, fixed assets, capitalization, if I go to the last record, I can see my truck for £20,000. If I go back to the asset master data and find my truck, fixed assets, you can see we have now brought it in. Next, we will talk about depreciation. Depreciation is used to write off costs of an asset over its useful lifetime. Two methods of depreciation are the depreciation run and manual depreciation. Executing the depreciation run will update an asset's value with the actual depreciation. When a user executes a depreciation run, the system carries out the depreciation planned up to the specified date. If we have a look in Business One, we go to Financials, Fixed Assets, and the Depreciation Run. Here I can preview the posted depreciation. So I have my truck over here, and it is suggested a depreciation of £1,042. By selecting Execute on this depreciation run, we will post to the ordinary depreciation and we will update the asset's value with actual depreciation. If I now go back to the asset master data and we go back to the truck, we look at fixed assets and the depreciation subtab, we can see over here that in December we have taken a depreciation of £1,042. And if we look at the values tab, we can see under the ordinary depreciation a value of £1,042 depreciation has been taken. Over here I can choose different periods and I can also choose different depreciation areas. We can also see that the net book value has been reduced by a total of ordinary depreciation. In depreciation runs, unposted planned depreciation is always posted using the catch-up method. This is where the system gathers any planned depreciation that has not been posted yet for the entire depreciation period, and then creates a collective posting. Therefore, the posting can include planned depreciation from several periods. If, for example, if we have a look at my cooling fans, which is an asset which was acquired in June, we can see that the planned depreciation has been set at a value of £114. However, the depreciation run was only executed in December, and the total of 6 months planned depreciation has been accumulated into one. The depreciation run can be repeated as often as necessary, provided no depreciation run has been executed for the following periods. A repeat depreciation run may be necessary if the asset's value have changed once again after posting planned depreciation. When repeating a depreciation run, only the value difference to the posting of the last depreciation run are considered. I can also now run the manual depreciation. If I want to run depreciation for my truck, if for example there has been some permanent damage and I now want to reduce its value by a further £200, I can simply do this like this and select add. Now, if we look back at our asset master data for our truck and we select the fixed assets tab and again depreciation, we can see over here we have a manual depreciation value of £200. It's important to note you can execute a depreciation run only when no depreciation run has been executed for the following periods. Finally, let us have a look at retirement. Retirement is the process of disposing of an asset in SAP Business One. A user can retire an asset by raising a retirement document or an AR invoice. An AR invoice automatically generates a retirement document when the invoice contains a fixed asset item type. To be able to sell an asset, it must have the sales item in the asset master data. Let's have a look in SAP. So the first thing we need to do is in our asset master data, we find our asset and we must ensure that the sales item checkbox is selected. This will allow us to raise an AR invoice or a retirement document to dispose of it. If we select retirement, we can find our truck, we can select an amount that we wish to dispose of it for, and select add. If we go back to our asset master data and we look at our truck, we can see it has now been disposed. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you.